Hi there, everybody. It's Fred Thomas at A-D Bikes. I hope you're doing fine. I thought I'd do a behind the A-D bike video on the Bahn Steel Classic, which is our track bike offering. And it's right there in the background. And right here in the background, I have to say that one of the most compelling and fun things about reimagining and reinventing a brand is that you get to create products that the original brand didn't even have back in their previous incarnation. So, for example, A-D Bikes in its previous existence never had a time trial bike, and never had a cyclocross bike, and it sure didn't have a gravel bike. And I don't think they didn't even have track bikes. I think a lot of the riders back then, they were taking their Ultimas or Superlikes, and they were just turning them into track bikes and racing around the velodrome. Since I'm reimagining the brand for the 21st century, I'm able to sort of fill those gaps. And one of the most compelling things about this is that I get to work with anyone who wants to do it, and anyone who's up to it. And that's put me in touch with the carbon suppliers, the carbon frame suppliers in Taiwan, and also the steel builders in this country and elsewhere. And that's really satisfying to engage with a builder, a small builder who is a master of their trade, and get them to make the product become a reality. And that's what's going on with the Bahn. That's the story behind this bike. It was built by Burcak Erbil of Brelis Cycles in Turkey, of all places. We connected on the Framing Wheel eBay store, and I found out that he was a builder, and he was just starting out, or he'd been doing it for a while, but he was changing his shop around. And I said, hey, let's just build something simple. And he did. And he's gone on to win all sorts of awards. He's a very established builder now. And but he developed this prototype, the Bahn, as we call it. Bahn means track in German. And keep it simple. And that's the story behind it. And it's a prototype for the steel frames that we're going to be building with local builders. Unfortunately, Turkey cracked down on e-commerce, or they got rid of PayPal, so we can no longer easily transact in that market. So we're looking around in the local market, and there are plenty of builders around, and a lot of good ones. It's so hard to choose who to do it, but this is the muse for the new Bahn, and I thought I'd run you right through it. So I'll get out of the way. It is a 55 centimeter, so it's going to suit a rider somewhere towards 6 feet. It's Columbus steel. This one uses Columbus steel. We might use Reynolds or something else in our future builds, but this one's Columbus. You've got 29 millimeter diameter tubes. Down tube, C tube, down tube, C tube. Top tube is 26 millimeters. It's 120 millimeter spacing with horizontal dropouts made out of stainless steel, unpainted. You'll notice, maybe you can't quite see it, but they're not painted, so you don't scratch up the dropouts every time you change your wheels around. This bike weighs 5 pounds, 2 ounces, or 2.3 kg. You've got a threaded steerer tube up here. Ovalized chain stays, English thread bottom bracket, some lug work in here, classic lugs. We didn't do any pinstriping or chroming. The idea was to keep it simple, get the concept going. This is nice, an integrated seat post binder. Gives it a real clean look. And we went with the champagne finish and used the American Hustle font up here. And went with the traditional lettering, and a lot of that was, the classic sort of channels the fact that so much of the brand's history is in steel. We thought it would be appropriate to introduce a steel line, and doing steel on a sort of high volume level with third-party suppliers overseas. You lose a little bit of the spirit if you do it that way. So again, that's why we're doing the steel. And other materials in the U.S. and carbon fiber, leave that to the pros in Taiwan. This bike here was built by my friend Stephen Pelletier, who's a established master's track rider who he's competed nationally and internationally. He knows everything there is to know about track competition. He knows, I know nothing about it. I've never ridden this bike because unfortunately I've never had time to get down to the Northeast Velodrome in Londonderry, New Hampshire, which I recommend anyone who has an interest in track riding, do that. It's outdoors. I think you can still ride. Who would have thought an outdoor velodrome is the only place we can ride in this new world that we live in. But anyway, Stephen built this, and he used his knowledge of components and his excellent taste in component choice to make this bike come alive. It's Campagnolo Record all the way through. The chains or the gearing is a 45 up front with, I think that's a 15, no, a 13 in the back. It's a flip-flop hub, so on the other side there's a freewheel with 18 teeth, so you can use it as a commuter bike if you wanted to. It is got Cinelli Criterium bars. It's that wonderful circular drop, and so I mean that's the bike. But I haven't talked about the geometry, but it is definitely a track geometry. It is 74 degrees on the seat tube angle. The head tube angle is 75 degrees. The chain stays are 40 centimeters. The bottom bracket drop is 6 centimeters. The fork rake is 3 centimeters. The wheelbase is 96 centimeters. I mean, you can just feel how short and compact and tight this whole bike is compared to traditional road geometries. And the cool thing, it's got a 170 millimeter crank arm on there, so that when you're racing around the velodrome, you don't, hit your oops, I'm sorry about that. You don't hit a pedal. I don't know. That's what I'm told. I've never been on a velodrome, which is pretty depressing. I'd love to be on a velodrome, but they just don't. I haven't built one around here. There is always a hope to build one. The New England Velodrome and Sports Complex project is trying to get one done. And if they got one built up in Boston, I would be down there in a flash, even wearing a mask. Dreams do come true. So that's the story behind the Bahn. You can look at the specs in greater detail. It's on our Shopify store. And it may, if it speaks to you, please let me know. And one other thing, we're building more of these, and if you want to get on the list, you can just let me know. Right now, I haven't done anything formal yet, but this is what they're going to look like. That's the color. We're going to go with the mint green, which is one of the original colors used by A-D back in its previous incarnation. It'll be a beautiful bike. So again, if you want one, just let me know. We'll get you on the list. You pay a deposit, and then your place is held, and things move along. So that's the story. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. We'll talk to you again soon.